Today, we can fit our lives in the palm of our hands. Basically, every form of mass media is accessible from just a few clicks. From radios to books, they can all easily be accessed on a smartphone. But the world was not always this way, so let's take a look back at the history of mass media.
Firstly, no book, newspaper, TV show, or radio program could have existed without the evolution of language and writing. Some of the earliest indications of writing were from Egyptians. According to the article, Media in Ancient Empires, the creation of papyrus, used from 2680 to 2540 BC, made from some plants layered over one another, was the first form of paper, which was much more efficient than engraving symbols into stone. Some other methods of the time include clay and cuneiform, which were strokes made into wet clay and left out to dry in the sun to harden. Egyptians wrote with hieroglyphics or symbols. However, some areas of the world did not know how to write. The article Civilization Without Writing discusses how the Incas communicated through what was known as the quipu, which was a collection of cords with knots tied in them. Each knot and cord color conveyed a specific meaning. These forms of writing stem from the evolution of language. Yes, at one point, cavemen did grunt to communicate with one another and try to form a society. As both humans and society have evolved, so did language, making it easier to communicate. Books, one of the earliest forms of mass media. Papyrus scrolls were the earliest form of books, which were superseded in the 6th century by the Codex, a more portable, sturdier, and easier to store form, which made it a much more popular format. Chinese block printing, essentially stamping, was also popular. During the Middle Ages, books were handwritten on parchment paper and then decorated. The Gutenberg Revolution, which started with the invention of the printing press in the 1400s, changed how information circulated around the globe. With the invention of the mechanical movable type, this made books much cheaper and quicker to produce, spreading ideas much faster. And access to classical texts sparked the European Renaissance and led to higher literacy rates among diverse groups like women. With millions of books circulating in the world, popular literature soon emerged, sometimes in the form of inexpensive and knockoff books, which led to the creation of copyright laws, growing the publishing industry. However, as society has evolved, numerous other forms of mass media have emerged that have hurt the success of books, like newspapers and magazines. Although newspapers have existed in some form since ancient Roman times, the modern newspaper primarily stems from German papers printed in the early 1600s with Gutenberg's printing press, which were issued weekly discussing important events, which is what we see in more modern newspapers. The Sun, first published by Benjamin Day in 1833, was the first penny paper, which minimized paper size and used a 2-cylinder steam engine printing press and slashed the price of paper to just a penny, changing the industry forever by making newspapers mainstream. Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst were major competitors in the U.S. newspaper industry in the late 1800s. The two employed sensationalism, the use of crime, sex, and scandal, to attract readers. This later became known as yellow journalism, having misleading stories, inaccurate information, and exaggerated detail. This form of journalism is something that's also seen in magazines. The first magazine was published in Germany during the 17th century. The success of this publication led to the introduction of magazines across Europe and eventually reaching the United States. The introduction of news magazines and picture magazines dramatically changed the U.S. magazine industry during the early 20th century, but this did not last long as the internet and social media have essentially taken over the world. Originating from the United States in the early 1970s, the internet had included sites mainly for research purposes and for connections between overseas military bases run by the government. France Telecom introduced its Minitel system in 1982, and according to the article popularizing the internet, Minitel allowed millions of ordinary people to access online telephone directories and U.S. government-run internet services, which combined the telephone industry, and the computer industry. This helped open the U.S.'s eyes to the commercial use of the internet, leading to the World Wide Web and the mass production of personal computers. Instead of finding only a few research reports when turning on a computer, one found a whole world of opportunities. According to the article, The World Wide Web, the strategy that dominates on the web is filling the screen with windows, including access to websites that allow users to watch anything from television programs to movies to listening to the radio, a whole new world. The web introduced online communication between users, from emails to chat rooms to social media. Facebook was an influential social media outlet, leading the addressing of privacy-related issues, which was constantly updating its settings to make users' information much more secure. The internet and social media seem to combine all types of mass media, including movies, television, and radio. The concept of the motion picture was first introduced to mass audiences through Thomas Edison's kinetoscope in 1891. The Lumiere brothers released a cinematograph in 1895 that projected motion pictures for audience viewing. At first, these films were displayed in bars and town halls, but the development of the Nickelodeon Theater in the 1910s changed this. The birth of films with sounds in Technicolor emerged at the same time, but was not really used a whole lot until the 1950s. And the adoption of VCRs in households in the 1980s reduced audiences in these theaters, causing advertisers to shift their approach. At the same time, the television industry was growing. Two key developments in the late 1800s played a vital role in the evolution of TV: the cathode ray tube and the scanning disc. By 1939, inventors formed the television. However, radio still dominated and was not replaced until the 1950s. The golden age of radio covered the period between 1930 to 1950 due to its wide range of programming, including variety, music, drama, and theater programs. According to the article, Radio in the Television Age, some of the first radio programs were actually streams of Sunday services.
As we can see, to say that mass media has evolved over time is quite the understatement. We have gone from not speaking at all to creating over 6,500 languages, from communicating through colored ropes and knots to emailing and texting one another, from making paper out of plants and writing in clay to creating books and typing on computers. Today, we are seeing the popularity of traditional forms of media, such as books, magazines, newspapers, TV and film, and radio and even music, steadily declining, which is mainly due to the surge of the digital world of electronic video games, the internet, and social media. New media frequently trumps traditional media for 3 reasons. 1, it is more immediate. 2, it is often free. And 3, it can reach a wider number of people. So how do traditional media companies survive? Unfortunately, to some, it is adapting to the new technology to reach consumers. Recent examples include newspapers and magazines offering online articles and making apps and websites for the readers to view their material. Social networking and gaming sites continue to grow in popularity. Developers generate revenue from advertising and charging users for game bonuses or better services. Additionally, privacy issues have also become increasingly important in recent years with the rise of identity theft. New companies are being created left and right, almost making a new form of media in itself. These companies offer surveillance cameras, and the most popular right now being a camera on a doorbell. Other trends we are seeing right now include the rise of popularity of streaming services instead of the traditional cable. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and the list goes on and on. These services have become more popular for a number of reasons, including their relatively low price and offering no commercial breaks during shows and movies. So where do we go from here? What is the future of mass media? What will my grandkids read in their textbooks? What will mass media's long and amazing history be added to? Who's to say? People thought we were going to be flying in cars by the year 2000. These many forms of media demonstrate one thing, which is that as society and technology evolve, so do people, and vice versa. Some things are more popular at times than others, and some things get replaced by newer, more efficient models. And who knows, within a few years, smartphones may just be a thing of the past.